Charlie was someone who was willing to debate and downplay the death of George Floyd in the hands of Minneapolis
I
police.
think he called him a scumbag.
Right, have no regard, downplay slavery and what Black people have gone through in this country by saying Juneteenth should never exist. And I think, there are a lot of people who are out there talking about him just wanting to have a civil debate.
Ilan Omar had some pretty controversial things to say since the assassination of Charlie Kirk. About Charlie, we're going to get into that in just one moment. I'm the other Barack, coming to you live and direct here from the United States. Very quickly, 80% of you, this shocks me every single time I see this stat, are not subscribed to this channel. Folks, we put out 3 to 4 videos every single day. It would mean the world to me if you could just press that subscribe button, press that bell icon so that you don't miss out on any of this action. Last but not least, we have a free newsletter right to your inbox every single week. I'm sharing things about my life personally that I'm not sharing here on YouTube. The link is in the description of this video. Let's get into the clip.
What I do know for sure is that, Charlie was someone who once said, guns save lives after a school shooting. Charlie was someone who was willing to debate and downplay the death of George Floyd in the hands of Minneapolis police.
I think he called him a scumbag.
Right, have no regard, downplay slavery and what Black people have gone through in this country by saying Juneteenth should never exist. And I think, there are a lot of people who are out there talking about him just wanting to have a civil debate.
Complete rewriting of history.
Yeah, there is nothing more effed up, than to.
I think I'm just sorry to interject here. Look at their grins. Like, by the way, this was filmed shortly after. I think it was a day or two after he got set. Look at them. Look at them. Look at them. It doesn't matter what. It doesn't matter who. In broad daylight, killed in front of college students, having a discussion. And this is them. Look at them. Look at them. Look at them.
To completely pretend that, his words and actions have not been recorded and in existence for the last decade or so.
So I actually just want to show you guys, this is from the New York Post, given the clip and given what she said. So she went on a cruel rant about the murdered conservative activist, Charlie Kirk, scoffing at the notion that his core mission was to have a civil debate on politics. She said, there are a lot of people who are talking about him just wanting to have a civil debate. Omar sneered to progressive outlet Zateo, which is Mehdi Hassan's platform. These people are full of shit, and it's important for us to call them out while we feel anger and sadness. And so she did mention, like you saw in the clip, where Charlie had in the past downplayed George Floyd and opposed Juneteenth. By the way, I'll make it very clear that I've said many, many times, I don't fully agree with everything that Charlie has said. I've said this about Trump. I've said this about him. I've said this about Ben Shapiro. I've said this about Kamala Harris. I've said this about Joe Biden. Like, I'm very open about that. And so she said, like, there's nothing more fucked up than to pretend that his words and actions haven't been recorded in existence for the last decade or so, she added, further accusing him of posting hateful rhetoric on social media. She is also far from the only Democrat or public official to have voiced, I would say, an unsympathetic view of Kirk's murder. So on Wednesday, just hours after Kirk was shot at Utah Valley University, the Illinois governor laid blame on President Trump for the conservative activist's death. Political violence, unfortunately, has been ratcheting up in this country, referencing the recent murders of Minnesota's Democratic House Speaker. Sorry about that. Let's get back into the video here. So, yeah, look, at the end of the day, I think what else we should consider is when you look at like Candace Owens, when you look at even Dave Smith, Sank didn't really, you can tell that this war is simply about political viewpoints. There's no empathy. There's a lack of humanity. Like if I saw Dave Smith, God forbid, get sniped in front of college students, and I don't agree with a lot of the things Dave says about Israel, but if I saw him get assassinated the way that Charlie was, I mean, I would be shook at my core. By the way, some people are going to be like, Barack, how could you? He's calling for Israel to lay its weapons down, and he's anti-Zionist and that. Okay. But at the end of the day, murdering someone, and I say someone, I'm being careful with my words because someone is different from a terrorist, right? Charlie Kirk was someone. Hamas are terrorists. They're human beings, but they're terrorists. So the equivalence, the moral equivalence that a lot of the anti-Israel, pro-Palestine camp have been trying to pull from since the assassination is, why are you guys shedding a tear over the assassination of Charlie Kirk, and yet not a word about Hamas, I'm going to call them liberation movement members, according to them, getting killed by Israel in Qatar 4 or 5 days before. What did those Hamas guys do? What did they do? They're leading terrorist operations on a day-to-day basis, 24/7, abroad, getting paid at the expense of their own women and children dying as pawns in the actual terrain of the war, to be able to continue to fuel this war, to be able to continue to monetize. That's not okay, and that's why I don't shed a tear when those people get killed. But if somebody like Dave Smith, if I saw Candace Owens get sniped, you can't tell me that you would just be, because if any of you, by the way, would just go on the internet and be like, yes, I would condemn that. I'd be the first person to condemn that. What an awful way to respond to something like that. What a completely inhumane way to act and behave here on earth. And yet you see people like them have a grant? Come on, bro. You guys have so much influence and so much power and so much leverage about in this conversation. The people who follow you are going to start grinning too. This is why they are to blame. People like her, people like Mehdi, people like Senk, people like Dan Bilzerian, people like Mohammed Hijab. These people are to blame. They're breeding more of the cancer. They fuel the fire. They fuel the fire, and they have so much pull. It destroys me. Honestly, it destroys me. Thank you so much for all your support. Links in the description to help support this channel financially, and also make sure you sign up for that newsletter. Here's a note from me. Here are 4 ways you can help us grow if you believe in our mission. On Buy Me a Coffee and PayPal, you can directly contribute to helping this message grow and reach more people across the world. If you want to join the inner circle, join our Patreon with different tiers, and of course, our Discord community, which is free with people from all across the world. The links to every single one are in the description. And last but not least, to the other Brock community, I love you. Ani ohev otchem. I'll see you guys next time.